Chapter 1. Robert was always good. Robert Edward Lee was the less-than-longed-for fifth child of a mother in uncertain health and reduced financial straits, struggling essentially alone to maintain the facade of family in a home that was never hers. The infant's father was a war hero in a war that had been over for a quarter-century. He was desperately in debt, in flight from his creditors, and apparently oblivious to the realities of his fading fame and absent integrity. Robert had an inauspicious advent, and during his early childhood, his family circumstances got worse. Harry Lee's life became still less stable. During the spring of 1807, his sister-in-law, Mildred Carter, died, and became the fourth relative to make special provisions in a will to exclude him from undue access to the estate. She left almost all of her property to my dear sister Anne Lee during her life, free from the control of her husband, General Lee. In June, the British warship Leopard fired upon the U.S. ship Chesapeake, inflicting damage and casualties and seizing 4 alleged British deserters from the American crew. The incident provoked American ill will toward Great Britain and prompted President Thomas Jefferson to confront the crisis with economic sanctions, an embargo. Lee leaped upon the excuse to vent frenzy upon Jefferson and the Republican Party. In the autumn of 1808, Lee wrote a vicious diatribe against the president, a cursory sketch of the motives and proceedings of the party which sways the affairs of the Union. Published in 1809, Lee's pamphlet brayed, "Bonaparte rules by the saber and by the bayonet. The miserable French are his slaves. Jefferson rules by exiling from the public councils of the state and nation truth, honor, and intelligence. We are reaching with quick steps the French condition." When young Robert was 2 years old, his father's creditors finally brought Light Horse to bay. On April 24, 1809, Harry Lee took up residence in the Westmoreland County Jail in Montross, Virginia, imprisoned for his debts. Confined at night to a 12-by-15-foot cell, Lee was able to go about the courthouse green during the day. In this same courthouse, Lee had been a gentleman justice, and to this place had ridden former President George Washington in 1799 to cast his vote and throw his decisive weight for Lee's election to Congress. Now, Light Horse Harry was an object of derision at the scene of his past triumphs. Not only was Harry a debtor in Westmoreland County, he served time in the Spotsylvania County Jail as well. Harry didn't despair. He made use of his enforced leisure to write his war memoirs, which he planned to publish and sell in order to recover his solvency. And while he labored away on his memoirs, Lee didn't hesitate to write to President James Madison from Spott's Sea House to ask for a federal judgeship for his youngest brother, Edmund Jennings Lee. Whatever is the Protestant Christian equivalent of chutzpah, Harry Lee possessed it in abundance. While her husband was in jail, Anne Lee seemed to gather strength and will. When her widower brother-in-law, Carter Berkeley, offered her and her children refuge with him and his children at his plantation, Anne declined with genuine thanks. "Mr. Lee, in all his letters, requests I will remain here till his arrival, that the Negroes may also remain, and that I should not take any step towards fixing myself elsewhere," she wrote, and added, "I gave him a positive promise that I would do so, reserving to myself the right of choosing my place of residence afterwards." She concluded, "I feel an unconquerable inclination to fix myself permanently, be it in ever so humble a manner, and must indulge myself in at least making the attempt." Not only was Anne aware that continuing to live at Stratford was impractical,